you go through life, it's a long, long road. There'll be joys and sorrows too. As we journey on, we will sing this song for the boys in royal blue. We're often partisan. We will journey on. Oh, so keep right on till the end of the road. Keep right on to the end. If you're tired and weary, still journey on till you come to your happy abode, where all your love and your dreaming of will be there at the end of the road.
So welcome to a bit overdue for another Blues Zoom. And as we all know, it's pretty horrific at the club at the moment. We're going to cheer ourselves up because joined by Alex McLeish. 10 years ago, where did all the years go, Alex? Since the greatest day in the club's history would have to be really the Carling Cup win in February 2011. 10 years ago, the week after next. And promotion as well. 9th place finish in the Premier League, which seems a world away now, doesn't it? I know there were a couple of relegations as well, which we'll come to, and that's the word, the R word. Talk about Boris Johnson and dipping the R below 1. Well, listen, relegation is a real spectre of Blues at the moment. Have you been paying much attention to what's been going on?
Oh, goodness, yeah. I'll always have the Blues in my heart. You know, it was a job that I really loved, you know, and I felt I had there was a good confidence about the place, and especially, you know, the team we kind of built, you know, to get to the 9th position, and then a year later, the next season won the Carling Cup, but relegation in the end, and quite simply, we didn't recruit well enough in terms of the strikers, which we fully intended to do, and I still believe if we'd have had those strikers, then we would still be in the Premier League. We could, you know, you just grow and grow. The more you stay in the Premier League, the likes of Burnley and that, and Sean Dyche's great job.
Yeah, you can see the parallels. I mean, that after we'll come to the, you know, that amazing day, and you know, for most of us, it's kind of something which is sort of frozen in our memories now. But you know, what happened afterwards and that kind of free fall in the league, it's very reminiscent of what's happened this year. It's far worse now because, you know, the club just seems to be heading for oblivion, a division below. Can you believe that, Alex? You know, the size of it and the way it's gone, that it's, you know, on the cusp, it appears, of dropping into League One.
You know, when you know, Carson Yeung left, then I thought that you know, somebody would have potentially a great chance to rebuild that club. You know, with everything that's happening in UK just now, I know that the high-speed railway and stuff like that goes through Birmingham, and I heard all sorts of stories that they may want to go through St Andrews, but Birmingham would profit with millions of pounds to go forward. But
who was saying that, Alex? Was that part of the sort of Chinese whispers, as it were?
No, it wasn't Chinese whispers. It was it was chat that I heard in you know, in London and places like that, you know, and because I knew some guys who were looking to buy football clubs, and they asked me, you know, to consult with them, and then I heard that kind of, you know, in the end it was tittle tattle, so it wasn't. It was,
but not connected to the people who eventually did buy the club.
No.
No. Okay. because I mean, since
I don't even know who's in charge.
listen, nobody does. It's a Mr. King who's putting the money into the club. But I mean, sadly, I mean, you moved on, and Carson ended up in jail, and that was the start. I mean, it's 10 years of terrible decline at the football club, and it's just at its lowest ebb. It appears at the moment. I just want to take you back though to when you were there. The goals, Sullivan, Brady, they brought you in. You came in mid-season, didn't you? And the club was relegated, and then you came straight back the following year. And then the sale happened, didn't it? What do you remember of sort of meeting Carson Yeung and the sort of Chinese connection for the first time?
Seemed good, the vibes were good. The headlines were very positive in terms of money to spend, that kind of thing. And of course, the goalpost moved. Yeah,
I mean, money to spend. I mean, even now, the club has been spending. During COVID, a lot of clubs have spent nothing, but Birmingham have. But the recruitment, you mentioned recruitment there just earlier, and that is so important, isn't it? Did you go on?
Yeah, massive, Chris. It's one of the things that as a young manager growing up, you learn the hard way. And my first managerial job was in Motherwell, and I inherited a really good team, and we played. I got them playing a good brand of football. We were quite an exciting team, 3 at the back, wing backs, ahead of their time. And then what I didn't bargain for was the next season that about 9 or 10 of those guys would leave the club either through injury or retirement, or the Bosman ruling was in, and I lost Paul Lambert. Paul Lambert went to Borussia Dortmund, and a guy called Robert McCannon, who was our left wing back, what a player, and he went to Enschede in Holland. And the team was decimated, and I had to try and recruit for that next season. And I thought, Tommy Coyne, do you remember Tommy Coyne?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Tommy was an Irish. He played for the Irish Republic as well. Scottish born, but Irish roots. And, Tommy was top scorer that season, and he was finished as well. So we scouted down in England. We watched some reserve teams, Tottenham reserves. We saw a young kid. We thought, God, he looks like Tommy Coyne in terms of his movement, But unfortunately, he was only a spring chicken, and what he didn't have was Tommy's nous around the penalty box, and his goal scoring prowess. And that's when I realised that the recruitment is so important, and that I certainly hadn't learned it at that particular moment.
But the point being, you were across that, and you knew what you wanted. When you went to Blues, Peter Panu was effectively running the show, wasn't he? Do you remember that? I mean, that was what was the process? I'm trying to put it into context now, because the guys who are running the club now, Dong, Ren Zhuanden, Dong, wrong most of the time it seems, and Karanka, he's admitted last week. I mean, he's outsourcing recruitment to Spain and to France, whatever that means. So. Players are coming in, and they've not been firing. He's not been picking a lot of the players that have come into the club. What was it like with Panu then? Did he sort of talk to you and say, "This is what we need," and or did you say to him, "We need this"?
Peter was all right. There was a smooth transition, and they took over from the two Davids, and of course Karen left as well, and we were talking really ambitious kind of talk, and I was really delighted. I'm not saying David never gave me support; he did, but there was a wee bit of in terms of getting back to the Premier League. We went for players that were kind of out of contract, paid wages only. We never really had a huge budget and spending money.
Bit like now, but I mean, was it you who identified everybody? Is that what you're saying, or was some?
We brought everybody, and David would, the board would pitch in with one or two, obviously players who they knew the agents of, and if that player fitted the bill, then absolutely great.
Yeah, so agents do come into it, don't they? I mean, in terms of who's available, and there's a bit of, I can see that. But does it surprise you outsourcing to foreign countries, and then the manager appears to have to get on with what they come up with?
Well, I think it's so difficult for a manager and to do, exactly what the fans want, and to exactly what he wants as well. And I found it so difficult in a lot of the clubs that I was manager in England, and probably even Scotland. I never really worked with money, and it would have been very interesting to see if I did get money to spend, that I'd still be in the game at the high level.
Mm-hmm. But it seemed at that time, 10 years ago, that you were getting the players you wanted more or less, and it was fairly smooth, wasn't it? Because you came in 2007, was it? How far through the season was it? It was about, it didn't stop the club from going down.
Was it? Oh God, it was around about. It must have been round about Christmas, because
yes, you had the game at Spurs, didn't you? That amazing goal from Seb Larsson up at Tottenham.
That's right. That was my debut game as well, and Seb hit a screamer.
Yeah, he did half. Yeah, that was an amazing goal. But then relegation, then promotion, and of course, the amazing season. And it really does seem now, looking at the state of the club, that you can't imagine that they ever won anything really. But what are your memories now? That you said, I think you said at the time, didn't you? It was your greatest achievement relatively.
Yeah, absolutely. Winning the Carling Cup. And also, getting the 9th position season before. But winning the cup was, and especially against Arsenal, was a massive feat and achievement, considering the difference in the spending of the clubs. But it was a team that I had kind of built, and that's what makes it so much more satisfying.
Yeah, anybody on a given day, if you're together, and just looking at what's happening with Blues at the moment, Karanka's trying to pull these players together, and it's not as if they're not trying, but it just doesn't work. I just want to ask you about what you think about. Your style was quite pragmatic, wasn't it? You got the best out of the players that you had. You knew what they were good at, and that was really apparent in that final, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But if you look at that final again, you'll see that we played some lovely football.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, in terms of let's get the ball up to Big Ziggy all the time. It wasn't a long ball game. We played good football. We had smashing footballers in midfield. Actually, the wingers that I chose earlier in the season just wasn't working, and we then decided to play two midfielders on the right and on the left. So Seb Larsson was on the right. He was a wee bit more a specialist, but he came inside and he played inside. And Keith Fahey on the other side was a midfielder who came in and interacted with the other midfielders, the other strikers, the other defenders. Just a really nice footballer. Not world beaters, but we beat Arsenal that day, and we thought we were world beaters. But at the same time, these were good players that we identified, and they did a fantastic job for the club. And that's the really difficult thing, is getting the right players in to do the particular job you wanted to do. Zigic was also, of course, in the team, and he was a player that I tracked. Not really number one in my list, but a friend who worked a wee bit in agency, Steve Archibald, offered me Zigic in a loan, and I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. But I was looking to get other specialist strikers. I tagged Bobby Zamora. He was keen to come up to Birmingham. It never quite happened. That was back in when I was in South Africa, and I met the board over there. And
Was that during the World Cup?
During the World Cup.
Do you know what? Do you know what I bumped into? I was at the World Cup on the day of the day after the final. I bumped into Peter Panu in a hotel in Sandton in Johannesburg, and I said to him, "Who are you signing for this season?" This would have been before the Carling Cup winning season, and he was. I got him to admit that he was after Jean Beausejour, which he did, and he he did all right, didn't he?
John Beausejour was a really good footballer. He was a great squad player. He wasn't, as you know, he wasn't my first choice in the final, but he came on and he played a fantastic part, and he was a really nice guy, good guy on with the squad, a teammate to all the guys, good teammate. And yeah, these were good recruitment guys. They were good in the dressing room, and Big Ziggy came not in a loan, but the club bought him.
Cost a bit on his wages, didn't he? But that's, I suppose that's that's the way it was. But just in terms of what you're saying there, I mean, you're getting the best out of the players because they know the system, they know what they're expected to do, and they might not be world beaters, but collectively it happens. And just applying that to what Karanka is trying to do now, it's not really happening. Tell me, from what I don't know what you've seen of Blues, but basically, when Karanka came in, he came in with this sort of 4-2-3-1, where you block off the back, don't concede goals like he did with Middlesbrough when they got promoted a few years ago, but don't score many at the other end. Does the job at that level, but what's happened is he started doing that, didn't score many, but kept him out the back. But now every time he's tried to score some goals, and Blues are the joint lowest scorers now in the Championship. Every time he did that, they started leaking badly at the back. What's going on there?
I suffer with him. I've got complete empathy for the guy. Because there's times when my coaching managerial career that's happened to me, and I always remember Gerard Houllier saying to me when I visited him in Lyon when they won 3 titles in a row. I said, you must be nerveless in the technical area, Gerard, with these guys. He says, I wouldn't say nerveless. He says, there's always nerves, Alex. He said, but I tell you what, when you have the players that I've got on the field out there, it is much easier. And that's when you realise that you lose a bit of quality. I mean, look at Jurgen Klopp just now, having lost some top players. He's had to shift top midfielders into defence. There's been some difficult results for Liverpool, and Klopp's one of the best coaches in the world. So Karanka could be the best coach in the world for all I know, but if he's not getting the proper recruitment, then it's going to be extremely tough. And if you can't get the best out of those, I became frustrated in some places. And when you get like that, it's sleepless nights. He will be feeling it severely, the guy. And I've got to, as I said, have empathy for that.
Yeah, he looks a bit crestfallen at the moment. He even suggested after the last home defeat, and Blues just keep losing at home, that he couldn't motivate the players. I mean, it's a long story, but the CEO, who doesn't have any experience of football administration, has backed him, and so they could have come as a kind of package. I mean, from personal experience, and when you lose that many games, the Blues have lost 14 so far, 1 win in 14. I mean, you're sort of looking over your shoulder a bit, aren't you, and thinking, well, is the bullet going to come?
Well, that's right. It's a spiral, isn't it? And it's hard to find a win from anywhere, and hard to envisage a win. But you would again. he's got to knuckle down and keep believing that he can get a result.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Just keep working. But I mean, last night the defeat at Millwall, terrible mistake by bad back pass, things like that. They just set in, don't they? And when you're off on the back foot.
Yeah, and it's when the guys you don't have a kind of telepathy throughout the team, and they're struggling to knit. Has there been a lot of injuries, Chris?
Not really. No, it's just. I mean, he's got his squad that he keeps changing. I mean, not sure of his system. Play with two holding midfielders, or last night sort of 5 at the back, 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, whichever you want to look at it. But normally 1 up top, but 2 last night. And I mean, consistency. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you during that season when Blues did really well, you had a record or something of playing the same team all the time?
Yeah, we must. I think we played. I don't know, something like 13 in a row or something with the same team.
Yeah,
and it must be really tough for the guys that are left out, or that feel they could do something. And if I'd have rotated a wee bit more for them, but I just thought we were on a run that was so good that. It was easy for me to do the team talk. I said, same team guys, I'm sorry, I've got to run with these guys. And there maybe comes a moment where you get an injury or two, or there's a bit of fatigue finally. I know that the sports science teams nowadays are so meticulous that they flag the red flags if a player is being overplayed.
Yeah.
There could be an injury about to occur. So I get that, and nowadays, but back then, none of my players looked as if they had the mentality was so strong and positive and confident that they never got any injuries. And, I can't even remember when it came to an end, the 13-match unbeaten. It seemed like forever because watching the soccer stuff in the Saturday afternoon in Sky, and hearing what they were saying, they were every week they I can't believe how Paul Merson couldn't believe how we were doing it every week.
Don't listen to him; he talks a lot of rubbish. Then,
but we had a great spirit. We had great telepathy within the team. There was a good rhythm there, and then, the irony was in the run-up to the Carling Cup final, we played some of the smaller teams from other divisions, and that's when I gave the rest of the squad. This doesn't run into the 13 games in a row, but in that cup, I thought, right, I've got to rotate the squad. And when I looked at those players that were in the team, they were all fantastic players. Kevin Phillips was coming in. Kevin was 38 or 39 at the time. But he wasn't going to play every game for us. But by goodness, that guy knew how to score a goal. And if the other guy,
do you know, Alex? Talk your Aberdeen connections. Do you know Cosgrove, the guy that Blues have just picked up for a couple of million, who's been scoring a few goals up there? He's not played yet. I mean, I think he came off for 5 minutes. But it's one of those players that Karanka. You're wondering, well, why they brought this guy? He's not played. I mean, he's been here a month now, and just not. He's got a knock the other day, but nonetheless, he's just not featured really. Behind
Karanka pushed the green light for him, or did he?
Well, listen, we don't know how who decided he was going to come in, but he's come in. He scored a few goals. It's been not so much this season, but again, it's the sort of recruitment thing, isn't it? Really, he's brought him in, but we haven't seen head to the tail of him really. Nothing. You don't know him? No. He was at Wigan, I think, wasn't he?
Listen, I watch all the Scottish stuff as well, and as well as the Premier League and every division in England. I watched a lot, and Cosgrove is more of the old school hustling centre forward.
Yeah,
he drifts out to the wing at times, and he tries to get in on top of maybe fullbacks, but then again, you have to do what you said. I was pragmatic. You have to use a certain way to play with him. But he is a guy who will mess defenders about. I don't think he's particularly quick. Sometimes that is a problem in England at the highest levels, and the Championship is obviously still a really, really high level. But Cosgrove, if he gets the service, he can score.
I mean, just referring to that, do you think that the Championship is a step up from the SPL or the Premiership in Scotland?
Yeah, I do, to play at the top level. Yeah, I mean, Rangers and Celtic the team that I had back in 2003 was we've got the right dates there. Yeah, 2000. For when we won the treble, we were up against.
Was that the helicopter fight day? Was it when the helicopter brought the treble?
That was 2 years later.
All right.
But we were up against a phenomenal Celtic team with guys like John Hartson, Henrik Larsson, Chris Sutton, so Martin O'Neill had built a fantastic team. I came in, and this seems to be the story of my life. I inherited a team from Dick Advocat, who Dick couldn't get any more out of them, and I got them playing again, Ronald de Boer, Michael Malls, Arthur Newman, guys like that, Barry Ferguson.
Barry, God bless him. He was brilliant in the final, wasn't he? Every time I think of Barry Ferguson, at the end of the game, I just think of that little flip he gave on the back of the head of Koscielny. You ran past. As he said, "Well, have that, son. We've won the league. We've won it." But that was his character, wasn't it? I mean, that's what Blues lack at the moment. Somebody with a bit of bottle, come out and do it. How much you look at it, Alex, now, and you think, Blues second from bottom, and they're in a real state, absolute state, can't win a game at the moment. If you were in Karanka's position, what would you be thinking now? Is it just more of the same, or has he got a?
Well, when you mentioned that earlier about Karanka, he's changed that a wee bit now and again, or I don't know how regularly, but I'm not here to give Aitor some advice, but I can only go on my experiences. And when I was at Aston Villa for that year, and I had a spell where players were dropping out left, right, and centre. Richard Dunwell, broken collarbone. Shea Given, broken collarbone. Stilian Petrov with illness, and then I met Sir Alex one day. We were playing up in. We played Wigan, I think, the first week, and then we played Blackburn. 2 games up north, and one of the days at the hotel, he said he came over to the hotel, one of the Manchester hotels, and had breakfast with me, and he said, "Look, what about the team?" I says, "Well, it's forced changes, I've got forced changes because of injuries and illness and that kind of thing." And he said, "Well, even so, with the players you've got, try not to chop and change all the time, because then you can get into real difficulties.
Yeah.
You change the team every single week." I'm not saying Aitor's doing that, but
he's doing it a fair bit. It's more the system, it's more the system, and that kind of negative one-up. You mentioned, I wasn't going to mention it, Alex, Villa, because I'll be straight with you. I mean, there's a certain section of the Blues fans who still haven't quite forgiven you for going across. Looking back now, and it was 10 years ago, and you left. Do you sort of regret it or not?
Do I regret it? I mean, I never supported Blues or Villa when I was a kid, and so therefore I thought, well, okay, I'm going from what, but I never thought the difference, the friction between the fans could ever be anything like Rangers and Celtic, But I was a wee bit wrong about that. But in saying that, I was forced into a corner at Birmingham that I didn't want to, the kind of standards that I put for myself and the values that I had was that I didn't want to be governed on who was coming in to play for Birmingham City. We're doing another divisional course. It looks like I walked out and stuff like that, and it broke my heart to walk away. But when I felt that I didn't have the control anymore, then I thought I've got to hand in.
Control from who, Alex? What Panu and company?
Yeah, the control of transfers, that kind of thing.
So it wasn't. So it wasn't good. I mean, so that was the start of the rot setting in, then, if you like. Listen, financially, I mean, the club has just been a car crash for a decade now, and that is the problem.
Where's Peter Panner now? Where's Peter?
Hong Kong, I think. Carson's been inside for 6 years. He's come out very grey and very gaunt. But listen, he's a convicted money launderer, and that, there's unfortunately the regulation of English ownership, of clubs. EFL just look at it and go, well, they passed the test, and in a situation now probably where it's far worse, because nobody knows where the money's coming from, how much there is left, and if the club goes into League One with the salary cap next year, it's going to be really difficult. I mean, can you imagine it from your point? If Blues had dropped into League One in your days when there was a salary cap and all the rest, it's not easy, is it? You mentioned Paul Lambert, Ipswich, at the moment. He's having real problems there.
I know. I obviously keep in touch with all my ex-players and guys that I know in the game, and I see that Paul's under a wee bit of pressure as well, and the social network doesn't let up.
It doesn't. It's good to keep in touch, and I mean, the experience that you've gained over the years is invaluable, and it's interesting to hear your views of how you would approach it. Not to labour the Villa thing, but I remember I spoke to you after you'd left Villa, and I said, how would you compare the two? He said something quite nice, actually, about, as a club, which one did you enjoy more?
Well, I enjoyed Birmingham more. I've got to admit that I felt under pressure at Aston Villa for the whole season, and it was hard to, my staff went with me from day one. It was only a couple of weeks later when they came in, so I was really, really feeling the heat. And us football managers are supposed to be tough as old boots and things like that. But I saw Jose Mourinho leaving Man United, and he did an interview with one of the Sky guys, and he said, "Well, surely the great Jose Mourinho doesn't feel it." And he said, "Hey, I'm a human. I'm a man like you, and of course I do." So at Villa, the situation was that I reduced wages. There wasn't money to buy anybody, and I worked like that the whole season, and it was a real struggle to make sure we stayed in the Premier League. And going sliding down the table, and went after a really positive start, Benty and Agbonlahor running riot in the first 4 or 5 games, and then all of a sudden, people dropping out, injuries, and the goalkeeper 13 weeks, and all of a sudden you think the world's against you.
Yeah. Sliding down. I mean, you mentioned Villa. It happened at the end of that, just after the Carling Cup win with Blues. I mean, how is it impossible to stop?
Well, it wasn't impossible because we did stop it. And
Villa, yeah, but I mean, the Blues, it didn't happen, and the way things are going at the moment, you're thinking they're going to slip down. But as a manager, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, what? How can I do this? I mean, more often than not, it doesn't happen, does it? I mean, is it a lost cause for Blues, do you think, this season now?
No, I don't believe that. I don't want to believe that, obviously, as well. But I just hope Aitor gets a bunch of guys he can really trust, to get through the rest of this season, and rely on them. Give total faith to them, and if he chooses the right players that he knows are going to be proud and battle for their own sake as well as Birmingham City's sake, and that for me is going to be very important for Karanka.
Yeah, we keep our fingers crossed. Alex, let's end on a positive note. 10 years, 10 years. Can you believe it? Since that amazing day. And you know, I'll remember it from the rest of my life. Really, I mean, it was a bit surreal. I've got to be honest. And I was there with my mum. You met my mum, and
Oh, how's Mum?
yeah, she's good. She's good. She's still around. She's 95 this year.
No, I said
Veteran of the 1956 Cup final and all the rest of it. But
give her my regards.
I will. But you know, I mean, it's an amazing thing, isn't it, to win a trophy, especially against a big club like Arsenal.
Frightening. It was absolutely beautiful. And actually, the truth is, I was feeling a little bit fluish on the day, you know, and I didn't get to enjoy it after the game as much as I would have liked to. But we played a great game. We prepared brilliantly during the week. We had good training sessions individually with the midfield, the defence, the attack. Well, you know, we split the team up, and so that no individual could be unsure of what he was going to be doing on the Sunday final, and they played it brilliantly. Arsenal were a fantastic team, and one of the leaders, Arsene Wenger, getting fullbacks charging right up the pitch and midfielders coming inside to interact with the forwards, and we stopped that fairly. No, it wasn't comfortable, but the players' concentration to stop that was awesome.
It was an amazing day, and you know, as I say, we'll remember it pretty much for all time. The way things are going at Blues, it might be a long time before we're in a similar situation. But it is, you know, it was a brilliant day, and you know, it was a cup win, and yeah, you will go down despite the Villa connection as Blues' most successful manager, which is something to be proud of, really. And then you still feel that way, yeah.
I'm so proud of my time at the Blues. You know, apart from the relegations, the first one was hard to address the slide. I had come in, as you know, late in the season, and I tried to get Gary Cahill in the January window.
Really? I didn't know that. I didn't know that. He's dirty Villa. We done him.
I had him in Karen's box, looking out to St Andrews, and I said to Gary, "Look, you'll be a hero here." And 2 days later, he signed for Bolton, and I thought,
well, he scored that overhead kick, didn't he? I didn't know that. That's a new one on me.
Yeah, but then he, to be fair to Gary, the boy, what's happened to him nowadays? You hardly hear of him. But no, I'm only kidding. What I'm saying is, he went on to have an amazing career, and he made the right. For him, he made the right decision. His reason for it, and I found a few weeks later, was that he didn't want to be seen as an Aston Villa reject if he went to Birmingham City.
Yeah, well, listen, there aren't many that have made the crossover, and you know, just finally, have you been in touch with Obafemi Martins? I mean, I know what's going to happen on the 27th of February. It'll be all over Twitter, Obafemi Martins Day, which is a 10-year anniversary of you know, he probably touched the ball once, didn't he? And he won the cup for Blues. What's he doing? He's been to Russia, didn't he?
I don't know. I seen you know, over the next few years, Oba was turning up at different countries. He certainly had an agent who worked at the Oracle for him and played for a few clubs. I think after us, he probably was in the Middle East as well at one stage. Oba, well, he's gone down in history in the Blues. The Blues memories, that's for sure.
We'll always remember him. We'll always remember you, Alex. And thanks ever so much for doing this today. It's, you know, it's going to be. I'm sure you'll get other calls in the next week or so as we remember 10 years. It's just because it's thrown into context now. You know, the club is in a desperate position at the moment, worse than it's probably ever been in its history in terms of what could be around the corner. And you know, that day 10 years ago just gives us a little bit of hope and something to cherish, really, winning a major trophy for only the second time in our history. So thanks a lot. And are you going to come back into the game or not? Scotland was what, 2 years ago now when your second spell?
For a couple of years there, and you know, I did a lot of experimenting and introducing new guys to but I kind of sacrificed myself a wee bit, you know, in the end. But in terms of head coach again, if somebody was to offer me, the Man City job or something, and give me all the money to spend and bring in the brilliant players, and then I might consider it. But to be honest, Chris, I would like to still be active in the game, and as sporting director, I'll be doing my.
Listen, I'll stop you right there, because there's a big job for a sporting director at a certain football club that you used to work for. So I'm not joking. There's somebody who knows the game needs to come in there. If it's not picking the team, it could well be something you might be interested in. But it's all around the corner, and until things change, and it might be in League One next year, then we'll have to see what happens. Alex, thanks ever so much. Absolute pleasure as always, and thanks for doing this very much.
Hey Chris, great talking to you, big man.
Thank you very much. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe, like all the usual things, and as you breathe in and exhales, keep right on.
All your love and your dreaming of will be there.